It's one of those moments you remember where you were when you heard the news. Today marks 1 year since the passing of Georgia's homegrown president, President Jimmy Carter.
That's right. So his death kicked off a week of mourning and reflection, not only here at home, but across the country as well. Zach Merchant was in Carter's hometown of Plains for it all. He joins us now, and you spoke with a man who knew Mr. Carter very well.
Yeah, and you know, that's something, and you guys all know this, we all covered that moment 1 year ago. When you talk about somebody who knew the president well, there are so many Georgians who can say that. One of the men who very much can say it is Craig Withers. He is the former vice president of overseas operations at the Carter Center. He worked closely with the president on his global humanitarian work for decades, almost 40 years. We asked Craig Withers today what he learned from all that time he spent with the president.
What I learned from President Carter is to treat everyone with respect. Now, he dealt with some pretty unsavory characters, but he always treated them with respect. He gave them a hearing, and then he would respond directly in a very respectful way.
And you know, that duality is something that I think all three of us talked about or remarked on a year ago. You know, President Carter was known as somebody who had such a humble kind of human touch. Everybody felt like they knew him. But if you spend time in a place like Plains, his smallest of small town roots, and then you think he rose from there to be Georgia's governor, to be the president of the United States, a global humanitarian, you got to have a rigid backbone to do that. And he encompassed both of those things.
Yeah, and balanced it through his entire life. It was interesting. He once told a story that he knew at what point of his life he met someone by the way they addressed him. If it was president, it was, you know, obviously his time in D.C. If it was governor, it was someone with Georgia roots. If it was brother, it was someone from Plains.
Yeah, and for me, you know, being a veteran, this was back in the day when he became president. During that time, I was a young soldier. I was actually living over there in South Korea at the time, serving over there. And his impact on our unit back then is he was trying to bring troops out of South Korea. We were on the DMZ.
Oh, wow.
And then one of his agendas was to bring some folks, bring some soldiers home from the DMZ, and our unit was part of that.
You know, one of the memories that I think of, and one of the things that was, I mean, it still kind of gives you chills when you think about it, it was days of his memorial service. It ended in the darkness, in Plains. And remember, we had the national funeral service at the National Cathedral in Washington, Cheryl, where you spent a lot of time that week. Then President Carter, his family, the casket got loaded up on that airplane, flew down to Georgia, processed to Maranatha Baptist Church, had the service there, and then processed through that one main street of downtown Plains. And Ron, you talk about your time in the service. There was a young service member. The day was running a little late. A young airwoman was walking by the crowd, handing out American flags. And I got to talking to her, and she said, you know, we never would have done all of this in one day. Logistically, it's so tough. But the president, as he was making these plans himself, was adamant that we do this all on the same day, and that whenever we do something in Washington, it's got to end back at home in Plains.
I remember us talking about the contrast between the National Cathedral and his very small hometown, humble church in Plains, but that really encompasses this man who remarkably, as I was in D.C. talking to people on both sides of the aisle, everyone had gracious, kind things to say about a man who made his life about service.
And all this was happening when we had horrible weather in D.C. and also here, but we made it happen. They made it happen for him.
No doubt. Well, on this anniversary of the death of President Jimmy Carter, 11 Alive is looking back on his life and the legacy of the 39th president and the work he started that continues today. Watch our special coverage 8 p.m. your time on 11 Alive Plus. Download it on 11 Alive Plus to watch on your TV for free.